Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the market insight for the 23rd of May. Now, it's been a bit of an interesting session. Just having a look at the where the majors are now. There hasn't been a lot of activity going through the market itself. I mean, you should have realised that yesterday. Just looking at what was coming out as far as economic data wasn't particularly that strong. There was no major significant releases. So what we've seen is just have a look where the currencies are. This is what you should be doing first of all. Obviously, the Aussie and Kiwi sort of ticked higher on the back of that positive sort of sentiment coming out of the US-China trade deal. Dollar yen, it looked like it was going to bounce off this trend line, but has started to trade sideways. Euro, a little bit of a prod higher. That was sort of initially on, was reported that China were going to reduce their car tariffs. So good for the German car industry. That was enough to probably send sterling up through that technical level, that sort of horizontal technical level around 134.5. I mentioned that yesterday. Might be a few stops above that, and there sure was. So oil dipped back down towards 72.70 and then turned around. That little drop in oil has seen dollar CAD whip into the range as well. All right, so what do we do here? Now, first and foremost, what you're going to do is just simply adjust your trend lines at the start of the new day to where the current highs and lows are. So it's just a situation of, if I just grab these trend lines, is just adjusting them to the new levels, to the new highs. Even dollar yen here, you can see it's just trading sideways through that level. I would be adjusting it just across. Just noting that as well, just below the Ichimoku cloud, that's probably going to find some selling interest from the Japanese traders once they get in. This significant horizontal line on sterling is now lost its value. Get rid of it, and you've got that fresh high there to look for. So we've got that new adjusted resistance level in sterling, and also even in dollar CAD, just adjusting that trend line across. And that's pretty much how your charts, how quick it is to update them, and how your charts should start to look from here. And this is where you can actually start to add a little bit more detail. There's a short-term resistance line up there in dollar yen. Has got a couple of touches. I mean, you can come back down here, even looking at euro, starting to form a bit of shape here, but it's very short-term. I don't really like the look of that, to be honest. Sterling's got a bit more shape, and that's going to be very important, obviously, coming into the major data in the UK today. So just looking at you got your technical set up. Now it's time to sort of plan around your overall day. Now, just looking at the MyFX Trading Hub page, you can see the next major release, okay, it's the German flash manufacturing data. Obviously very important for the euro. It's a good lead into what we could see the euro doing in this next session. But looking down here, we've got UK CPI figures, you've got the crude oil inventories, then the FOMC minutes as well. So we've got a busy session coming up, but it's 10 hours until the major sort of data releases. So when you're looking at the, coming back to the economic numbers, you know there's not too much to be done in the Asian session. So just make sure you're aware of that so you don't sort of spend endless hours in front of the screens. We've got the Nikkei manufacturing PMI. Sure, take a look at that. But, well, I guess if anything, if that's weak, we could see a sort of lean on the downside in dollar yen, support that move down. The construction work done there from in Australia. Now, that's generally low impacting data, but the way, you know, construction, investment spending, housing, lots of stuff at the moment has come into play. So just keep an eye on that. The prior number was a bit of a shocker, so maybe that does give us some inspiration. And then this is where the trading week really starts, okay? As I said, we've got the German manufacturing data. You got some Eurozone numbers there as well, but it's really going to be, the European session is all going to be about the UK CPI numbers. We do have a number of other variables, the RPI, retail price index, and the PPI as well. So make sure you follow that data. So sterling crosses in particular are going to be extremely active today. And then coming down through that, we've got some housing numbers out of the US as well. So, and the manufacturing PMI numbers out of the States. So a pretty solid session. And from this point on, what we've got is not only really strong numbers out of the UK and the US, this is actually for the remainder of the week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's all about sterling. I mean, there are some euro numbers coming out as well, but there's going to be a stream of heavy UK data. And don't forget, last month when this data came out, that's when the wheels started falling off the whole economic situation in the UK. So we're looking for that follow through. And if anything out of the US numbers, we're just looking for consistency. If those numbers are as expected, I would expect the US dollar to continue on its merry way. Now, just coming back into that, let me just change screens. It's a good time to keep focusing on the dollar, right? The US dollar itself. If I just get off this thing. Okay, so just looking at the, if I just change screens just briefly. Okay, so we're looking at the US dollar itself. It is coming back into, it drifted lower yesterday, and I was sort of talking about this. We would expect the overall trend to hold. It did quite nicely above 93.20. It got down to a low 30s and is slowly sort of consolidating at these levels. The pressure's off the US Treasuries at this point, which is probably a good thing. There's no need to have extra sort of pressure points in the market. It's settled down. I think it's consolidating as well, and that gives us the opportunity for the US dollar to really start to move higher again. I see no reason at this point why we wouldn't be getting long US dollars again. And that's it. So basically, just following the US dollar itself, keep an eye on the obviously the US numbers. The major pairs are exactly where they should be at this point. So sterling just reconnecting after a bit of a stop loss run on the top side. Actually, let me just come back to that majors page, because I do like, there's one thing in particular I like on that. It's actually just focusing on the pairs. I was just going to say, focus on the pairs that do have the best shape. And for me, it's still, the highlight is definitely euro. Okay, it is still just moving nicely down. Missed out on getting short here yesterday. I had an order. It came in around 118, just around in the 40s. We missed that run to the top side, but that order is still good for a opportunity to get short euro on the next rally. Now, sterling is going to be obviously a bit all over the shop. We have got a widening out here with that resistance trend line a little bit higher than yesterday. We do have a bit of a short-term support line as well. So keeping a very close eye on this with those CPI numbers coming out later today. I expect the Aussie and Kiwi to pretty much just trade sideways with no major economic data. Dollar yen, well, that manufacturing, Nikkei manufacturing numbers may give it some sort of drive, but at this stage, it is just starting to trade sideways. If anything, since it's below the cloud, I'd probably favour it down a little bit, as the Japanese traders would be more inclined to sell than buy. And oil, or dollar CAD continues to sort of bang away, where the major focus there is on the oil price. And that's pretty much it. You don't have to look for too much in the markets at the moment. The Asian session should be relatively quiet, as I mentioned, and all the activity is going to kick off in that European session. So make sure you don't waste your day in front of the screens over the coming, well, it's about 9 hours. You would tune up your charts, get everything in line, and then go about your day. Then come back for that European session. That's where the action is going to be. All right, guys, have a good one, and we'll see you in the trade zone. Cheerio.